All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my fellow Trash Talkers. Whatever time you are tuning in, I'm glad to have you on board. Once again, you're listening to Trash Talker D-Bork, and I'm your host, Dave Bork. It is Saturday, the 11th of October, 2025. This is episode number 68 of our NFL pod. Week 5 recap as well as a Week 6 preview. I know we've already had a game get underway, Thursday night football. Things got a little interesting for us this week, which is why we're bringing this a little bit later, but still got plenty of time to talk through Week 5, still got plenty of time to talk through Week 6, as well as that game that just went down yesterday between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. One of the most exciting teams in footy right about now, that's for sure. As well as the Tennessee Titans. Has anyone else got their Super Bowl tickets yet? I don't, but we got to win. So we're not in the trash for this week. Thank goodness for that. Who knows how long that's going to last, let's be real. But we're playing a team that's featuring very, very heavily in that week in and week out. All right, to get us started this week, we're also always going to run through a Week 5. We've got some question time at Trash Talk with D-Bork on Insta and TikTok. Thank you once again for sending those questions right on through. Gab, big Creed fan, as we know. Who isn't? Let's be real. After that, we'll talk some Week 6. Then we'll run through some best bets. 3 and 2 on the week last week with our best bets, as well as being fairly unlucky with some player prop parlays. But that is the way things go sometimes, unfortunately. We're happy with some of the numbers that we're getting, but just missed. Brenton Strange getting hurt for Jacksonville didn't really help that one. All right, let's talk through Week 5. These Thursday night football games just continue to get weirder. You know what happened yesterday was very, very weird, but last week was just about as weird because I have this Los Angeles Rams team rated very, very, very highly this season. And with all the injuries that San Fran have at their disposal, the Rams quite simply just needed to take care of business at home at SoFi. Divisional matchup, everything's on the line for them. And once again, Sean McVay showed that he quite simply can't beat Kyle Shanahan. I don't get it. They made Mac Jones look like Tom Brady. And I think New England watching that game back must be thinking, how on earth was this not the case with us, honestly. 33 of 49 for 342. Mac Jones. He had pretty much no receivers at his disposal. His number one receiver was Kendrick Bourne. He had 142 on 10 receptions. CMC couldn't really get a whole lot moving on the ground, but it didn't really matter. 8 for 82 and a touchdown for him through the air. Jermaine Tonjes just continues to kind of fill the void left by Georgie Kittle being on IR still. He had 7 for 41 and a touchdown. I have no idea how, but this San Francisco 49ers team is now 4-1. We know they've snuck by in a lot of games this season and continue to do so here against the Rams. Obviously, Kyron Williams with a couple of big fumbles got stopped on 4th down in overtime as well. That whole play call was horrific by the Rams. I honestly don't know what the hell they're doing. They're now 3 and 2. Bad loss from them. Matty Stafford, 30 of 47 for 380 odd and 3 touchdowns for him. But yeah, it all came down to those turnovers from Kyron Williams. And he was having a monster night before that, which was pretty tough from him. 14 of 68 on the ground, 67, sorry. And 8 for 66 and 2 touchdowns through the air. So brutal, especially when you're getting 170 plus from Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. You look at any kind of stat line like that, you're wondering how on earth you get beat. Maybe copping 340 odd from Mac Jones will do it to you. But it's a battle of the turnovers, and if you don't take care of the footy, especially against a great head coach that Kyle Shanahan is, he's going to show you that whoever he has at his disposal, it doesn't matter. He just has Sean McVay's number. The only time that Sean McVay got it done was in one of the biggest games to make the Super Bowl, obviously, but still. That was a costly turnover to Debo. The Niners face off against Tampa Bay this week. Massive game for them in Week 6. And the Rams, they travel to Baltimore without Lamar Jackson. They've just got to get this done. They can't lose to another backup quarterback, particularly with how bad Baltimore are going right now. They are an absolute mess. The NFL continued their international series in London. A lot more of these international games are getting us very, very excited for our game down here in Melbourne next year. Shouldn't be down in Melbourne, but it is what it is. 21-17 to Minnesota against the Cleveland Browns. Minnesota, they desperately needed this one, especially playing back-to-back games overseas. First one in Dublin, obviously, now this one in London. Justin Jefferson was enormous for him, 7 catches for 123. Finally got, I guess, some better production out of Carson Wentz because the week before turned the ball over far too much. He finishes 25 of 34 for 236 and a touchdown as well. Cam Akers actually thrown a 32-yard touchdown. I don't really know how that happens. It's a trick play, but it is what it is. to Oliver in the first. But Cleveland actually played pretty well, and I don't mind this kid. Watched a lot of him in college, obviously, because I'm a big Oregon fan. So Dylan Gabriel, I think he silenced plenty of people out there by showing that he clearly is the number one option in Cleveland right now, especially now that they've moved on from Joe Flacco. He's gone over to Cincinnati. Don't get me started on that. Like, how since he didn't pick up the phone and look at Jameis Winston and say, you are QB3 in New York. What's the point of him being in New York apart from being that pre-game hype man and number one supporter for Jackson Dart? But anyway, Joe Flacco's gone. So Dylan Gabriel stepped in, played well, 19 to 33 for 190 and 2 touchdowns. I think Judkins just continues to show how great he is as that RB1 in Cleveland. Went for 110 in that one. So they played very, very well. For a one-off game over in London, new starting quarterback bringing in for them. We know there's plenty of talk on the outside just waiting for Sanders to get a start. But Dylan Gabriel showed everyone that he's clearly capable of playing on the big stage. He'll show that again this weekend in Pittsburgh. Big road test, obviously, but Pittsburgh coming off a bye, so they could be rusty to get started. And I actually think Cleveland can get around this kid. Dylan Gabriel can play. He played plenty of college footy. He's not going to be overawed by this matchup in Pittsburgh. They were pretty unlucky. I honestly thought Minnesota would win this game by close to double digits. They didn't. 1 by 4. Covered our spread, thankfully, there. But Cleveland showed enough over there to show me that they are one of the best bets coming up in Week 6 at Pittsburgh. Minnesota obviously do have the bye in Week 6 before a big matchup against Philly. Philly, plenty of nervous Philadelphia Eagles fans. I want to shout out Carolina here, winning this one 27 to 24 against Miami. It was a massive comeback win, being down 17-0 at home. Very bad start from them, especially without Tyreek Hill. Maybe they thought they were going to be more of a chance, but in the end, they were more than just a chance. They won the game outright, and I always love it when Bryce Young wins because there's never any chat about this kid. There's only bad chat about him when he plays some pretty bad footy, but he managed to lead his team to a very good win on the back of Rico Dowdle having an enormous game on the ground. And that's a big talking point with this week coming up for Carolina, because if Rico Dowdle is going to give you 206 yards on the ground and a touchdown before playing his former team this week, man, that's going to be good. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait for Carolina Dallas, because a lot of people just keep turning down on Carolina, but they keep playing hard. They'll have their weeks where they're no good, but if I love a revenge spot personally, and I was very, very surprised that Dallas didn't go after him and continue to pay him. They've obviously moved on to Javonte Williams, who's not playing bad footy, but the way that Dowdle was playing last year, it was extremely surprising for them not to hold on to him, and I think he's going to show out in Week 6 against the Dallas Cowboys. The Miami side of the fence, we know they just beat the Jets in losing a massive lead against Carolina. It's a disaster for them. They have found themselves a tight end, though, in Darren Waller, who's come out of the woodworks to start playing tight end again in the NFL. He's only going to continue to get more snaps. Talked about him last week being one of the most picked up players, I guess, in the fantasy football world at tight end, and he will continue to get featured by Tua because they don't have many options outside of probably Jalen Waddle. We know they got Washington, but there's not much doing for them. They do face off against the Los Angeles Chargers coming up in Week 6, and the Chargers coming off some pretty bad footy over the last couple of weeks. They need to switch back on because the AFC West is clearly there for the taking. They need to realise that. Denver, 21-17 at Philly. Philly, talk about them in our Week 6 chat in just a second, but something is not right in Philadelphia. We know they can't run the footy right now, especially with Saquon Barkley, whether he's just completely burnt out from last year or they're just not using it right. But they got shown up here from Denver, and maybe Denver are legit. They're pretty unlucky not to be 5-0. Obviously, could have very well lost to the Tennessee Titans in week 1. We know that. They lost on a last-second field goal to Indy in week 2. Probably should have won that. So they should be 4-1. They're not. But Bo Nix showed everyone once again that he's good to go. 24 of 39, 242 and a touchdown. Unleash the shackles, Sean Payton. You've clearly got a guy. And he's a guy who knows how to win. And he can do that for this Denver team. This AFC West is right there for any team right now, unless your name is the Las Vegas Raiders. J.K. Dobbins, 20-79 and a touchdown for him. Cortland Sutton was huge in this one and continues to be so because Denver, outside of Cortland Sutton, don't really have that number 2 guy. You know, you look at a Cincy, you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, that's your number 2 guy. Dallas, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens would be your 2 guy, but Pickens is playing some very good footy with CeeDee Lamb out. Denver don't really have it. You know, you got Marvin Mims, you got Troy Franklin and other guys that are just trying to fit in and fill the void, I guess, at receiver to anyone. Troutman, very good tight end as well. I think he's serviceable. But Cortland Sutton's been an absolute stud and kind of continues to be underrated. No one talks about him enough, but the numbers he puts up are very, very good. Had 8 catches for 99. Hurts probably had his biggest day through the air before, the Giants game. But 23-38 for 280 and 2 touchdowns. But this Denver defensive line just continues to feast, and I really think they're going to do so this weekend over in London against the Jets. A very bad offensive line at that. They had 6 sacks against Jalen Hurts. I think he's just taken far too long in the pocket. They leaned on Saquon Barkley a lot last season, and their offensive line's a little bit beat up. Obviously, Lane Johnson's missed a lot of footy. Saquon had absolutely nothing on the ground against Denver. Continues to have nothing throughout the course of the season. I honestly thought it was going to be the case yesterday, but it wasn't. He's getting it semi-going through the air. Devontae Smith was big time for them. A.J. Brown held in check, I guess, by Pat Surtain, and I think you're going to see that in Week 6 for the Broncos and the Jets, with the Jets really only having one reliable source at wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, so similar to Philly with AJ. Devontae's very good, obviously, in the slot, but Denver are very, very good, and I wasn't as high on them this season, I'm not going to lie, but they're starting to show up a lot more, and they need to put the stamp in London this week against the Jets and completely put them to the sword. Show everyone that this is your division now. It's not the Chiefs anymore. Chargers had their chance, but they've blown it the last couple of weeks. This is Denver's for the taking. Game of the day, arguably, right? Tennessee, 22-21 against the Arizona Cardinals. This was such a Tennessee way to win some footy right now. The chase down on DeMarcado was something else from L'Jarius Sneed. There was no quit in him whatsoever. In saying that, why on earth are you slowing up? I've said it time and time again, people who showboat or slow up prior to getting in the end zone, run the freaking thing into the tunnel, man. I'll give you the tip. We're not winning that ball game if it ends up being 28-3 and then it's going to be our footy in the third quarter. Like, the game was over from that point on. But the game completely flipped from that point after DeMarcado's fumble into the end zone after Sneed hit it out of his hand. Following that, we had arguably one of the funniest touchdowns of all time with about the 6 fumbles right into Tyler Lockett. And that's arguably probably going to be his only touchdown for the season. But whatever. Missed a PAT. But then we came down, got a stop when we needed to. Cam Ward had an enormous last drive. One of those, thank goodness, moments, because that dart to Calvin Ridley was beautiful. Beautiful. Like, he got him in stride. It's about time Calvin Ridley actually caught one from him. I love watching this kid. Like, if he gets the right protection, gets all the time in the world to pass it, he's going to be special in this league, but he just needs time. I'm not saying that we're going to go on to win our next 10, because that was a pretty ugly win, but it's still a huge win on the road. And we now go on the road this week to play Vegas in Week 6. We're a chance there because Vegas are a complete and utter mess. They are bad. So it's not the worst back-to-back game. I think there's value in Tennessee potentially winning this one. You either taking the win or nothing, to be honest with you, because the way that Gino's looking after the ball, it's not good. And now, especially that Brock Bowers has been listed as out, he's valued at that plus 175 or 275 about Tennessee Titans. There's no bias in that. But go with the team who's got a little bit of confidence, because right now, Las Vegas do not. The Arizona Cardinals, they travel to Indy. I don't know if DeMarcado is going to be playing a whole lot in this one. But I do thank him very, very much for giving the Tennessee Titans and myself some absolute happiness for 1 week of the season. Thank God. Tampa Bay 38-35. Probably the best game of the day, just with how it was going. And if you've got some of these guys in your fantasy lineup, the likes of JSN, the likes of Ibuka, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, like everyone had a big day at the office. It was a good one to have them all. And probably just a tough way for Sammy Darnold to finish this game on the back of that late pick, because he had a chance to drive them down the field. Seattle get an opportunity to go ahead and win the game again with Jason Myers with the last second field goal, but got picked off, turned the other way, and McLaughlin kicks the game-winning field goal, 38-35. So that was a tough one. Darnold had a good day at the office, 28-34 for 341, 4 touchdowns, and just threw that pretty tough pick. JSN, like we said, huge day, 8 for 132 and a touchdown. Baker Mayfield just keeps finding ways to win. Everyone's like, oh, they're 4-1, they're no good. But it doesn't matter how much they're down during the game, if they're ahead, whatever. Like, Baker's just going to continue to ball out. He will run for his life to pick up a first down, put his body on the line. He is working with literally just a Mecca, an absolute rookie stud, mind you. How on earth he fell to Tampa Bay is hilarious in itself. Because they're without the services of Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's obviously working his way back in, and this kid's just come straight in, and we know how good he was at Ohio State. But he is playing next level right about now. 7 catches for 163. Baker going 29-33 for 379 and 2 touchdowns. They got a massive game against the San Francisco 49ers here in Week 6, and we saw today that Brock Purdy just got listed as out again, but you may as well keep sitting him if Mac Jones is going to continue throwing for 300 odd. Ricky Pierce will also out as well. So if you're Tampa Bay, you need to make sure that you are taking care of business at home, and I think they will. But I dare say it's going to be pretty entertaining stuff regardless. Seattle, they travel to Jacksonville. DUUVALLL. I'm never doing that again. Saturday night footy, New England Patriots 23-20 at Buffalo. The Bills, they're just bored. And finally the boredom caught up to them. Stephon Diggs pregame had one of the most emotional pregame speeches I've ever seen in quite some time. Someone who was moved on by the Bills after enough was enough, and he had a phenomenal career in Buffalo. They just couldn't seem to beat the Chiefs. He actually deserved to win a Super Bowl with them, with the production that he was given with Josh Allen. But he showed out. He made Bills fans either angry that he'd been gone or angry at the fact that he was just completely torching him. Drake May, 22-30 for 273. Like I said, with Diggs, 10 catches for 146. Did everything but score a touchdown. Actually had him to score a touchdown. So that one was tough to cop. And we had a play prop parlay in that one with Jimmy Cook to have 15 plus receiving yards. And I don't know. I've said it time and time again that the Bills love going to this committee, whether it's Ray Davis, whether it's Johnson. Just give Jimmy Cook 80 to 90% of the workload. He doesn't need to be taken out of games, especially when they get inside the red zone for these guys. Like, it's pointless. I don't get it. Like, neither team got anything going on the ground, and when you're not going to give Cook that, I guess, consistent workload, he had 15 carries. You've got to be giving him 20 carries in a game like this. He only went for 49. Josh Allen obviously went for enough on the ground, but through the air is 22 of 31 for 253, 2 touchdowns. Did throw that pick, which is pretty bad. But now, is this division semi up for grabs? Because that's a huge win if you're New England. Mike Vrabel has this team moving in the right direction. Shows how good of a coach he was, right, Tennessee? Well done. Idiots. Yikes. Great transformation, though, for New England. They had a down period for quite some time, and Vrabes has completely changed that. Soft schedule, I get it, especially soft the next 3 weeks coming up, but they can't get ahead of themselves here after knocking off Buffalo. They play at New Orleans here in week 6, who just knocked off the Giants in a pretty ugly game. But if you're New England, you've got to show that you are actually legit. You can't go beating Buffalo, then go losing to the Saints. It doesn't work like that. They need to go into New Orleans and take care of business early. Buffalo travel to Atlanta, Monday Night Football, doubleheader. Don't get me started. We'll talk about Monday Night Footy, though, in Week 5. Jacksonville 31-28. All right, I'll do it one more time. DUUVALLL. He left the timeout on the board in the first half, though. Completely stupid. But anyway, huge win for this team. At JSCO11 asked a question through for question time at Trash Talker D-Bork on Insta and TikTok. When is the time that everyone's jumping on this bandwagon? I was on board to start the season because I thought this team was the best team in the AFC South. Hard for me to admit that anyone is actually better than Tennessee in the AFC South, but I'm also a realist. Didn't think Indy would be this good behind Daniel Jones and obviously JT and defense is playing very, very well. But Trevor Lawrence came to play, and that last play where he fell over practically twice before still finding a way into the end zone was brilliant. 2 rushing touchdowns from Trevor. Gutsy win. 18-25, 221, a touchdown, did throw a pick, had 54 on the ground as well. He had a couple of big runs in this one to go along with those 2 touchdowns. Travis Hunter, 44-yard bomb that got the whole crowd going. And this kid has one of the best smiles in the world. It's almost too big, but I love it. He's a positive kid. But they're now back in this hunt to win the AFC South, and I think it's only out of them and Indy. I know Houston just had a big win against Baltimore, but the way things are going in Baltimore right now, not super impressed with them. I don't think anyone is. Everyone's surprised. Patty Mahomes, 29-41 for 318, a touchdown, did throw a pick. He also had 60 on the ground. Didn't see that coming because Jacksonville's been pretty good at defending QBs on the move, but yeah, not so much this week. I think they're absolutely desperate to get Rashee Rice back. We know that Travis Kelce had arguably his biggest game in the freaking season. For someone who was up against him in fantasy this week, I had Brian Thomas and Travis Kelce going into that one, and I was pretty confident in finishing that off. I was level with my opponent going into that last one, and yeah, Travis Kelce balled out. Of course he did. What do you do? But yeah, they desperately need Rashee Rice back. Xavier Worthy, he's playing hurt right now. Apparently his foot swelled up or his ankle swelled up on the flight on the way over to Jacksonville. They used him enough, but even you could just see that he wasn't himself. So they get Rice back fairly shortly and desperately need him because this is a team that, they won their last 2, but how much do we look into that Baltimore win now, seeing how bad the Baltimore Ravens are? It's not good in Baltimore. Speaking of not good, let's take out some trash. All right. How do we not start, like I said, with DeMarcado? I've said it time and time again. Stop the showboating. Maybe Jonathan Gadden shouldn't have punched him in the guts pretty much after it. Like, that was pretty bad. But I also get it because his job's on the line, but so's DeMarcado. Like, these guys have incentives in their contracts. If you score a touchdown, if you rush for this many yards, you get X amount of extra cash, right? So why on earth would you bother taking the risk of it potentially being hit out or you dropping it short of the goal line? It happens just far too often, and it is the dumbest thing you'll ever see. Nothing of that would ever impress me if you're like, oh, you just made it into the end zone and dropped it like just over an inch in. Well done. No, none of it. You don't, like I said, you don't see the stud wide receivers or the stud running backs doing this. You see young idiots or guys that don't really get an opportunity to do it. Man, run that thing into Rosette. Run it up into the grandstand if you need to and hand the ball off to someone. Guess what? You scored a touchdown from that point. You get 6 points. You don't get 6 points for giving up on plays early. L'Jarius Sneed did not give up on that play. Thanking for that. And it turned the game. So we, as Titans fans, thank you, Mr. DeMarcado. Said it before with Cincy picking up Joe Flacco. I don't get it. I know he's going to air the absolute shit out of it to the likes of Chase and Higgins, and maybe Chase Brown might find something. But behind this offensive line, and now playing at Green Bay this week, I know Flacco's already beat Green Bay, but he was behind a much better offensive line in Cleveland. He may get decapitated this week. I don't know, Jameis's phone mustn't work in New York. I don't get it. Vegas, they're an absolute disgrace. Like I said, ditto the Baltimore Ravens. I know they don't have Lamar Jackson, but seriously, their defense is just getting torn to shreds. It is tough to watch. And they played a Houston team that hadn't got anything going offensively and put 40 odd on them. On the road. Bloody hell. I don't know. And then you're still looking at this division, and Baltimore's still priced up at pick-ish, slight plus money maybe over Pittsburgh. I know I'm not high on Pittsburgh, but if Lamar misses more time even after this week with that hamstring, how many more games can you lose? They're a chance of being 1-4, 1-5, whatever they're going to be after week 6. You're falling a long way back. Vegas can keep losing. They can drop another one if they want to here in week 6. That'd be great. Question time now at Trash Talk with D-Bork on Insta and TikTok. Thank you once again for sending those questions on through. We got one more after Mr. Jasko sent his message through. One of our really big followers at young_Gab always brings up the Stanford tree. But he goes, what is your dream Super Bowl halftime performer and why is it Creed? As we know, we're all big Creed fans, and I think we're all waiting for a world tour from Creed. If Creed would ever announce they're coming to Australia, you've probably never seen guys line up quicker in their life to get tickets to watch Creed. So I would love to see Creed as a halftime performance. There's no better music to kind of get you going. I don't need to explain it anymore, do I, Gab? I mean, you know. Everyone knows. There's a lot of listeners that know how much I love Creed. Linkin Park, obviously, back in the day. Nickelback. I know there's plenty of people that hate on Nickelback, but they would be amazing at the Super Bowl. Give me all that. Let's talk now some Week 6 footy. Thanks for sending those questions on through, guys. Thursday night football recap here. Giants, Eagles. Yeah, I said things got weird. Things got very, very weird. Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo might be two of the greatest wide athletes to ever play in New York. They have New York by the balls right now. They could do whatever they want. They could walk into any building. It doesn't matter. They rule the roost. And it amazes you, one, at the fact that a lot of people were blowing up at Jackson Dart getting drafted before Sanders. Clearly it's showing why. Two, how Cam Scatterboo drafted so late in the piece, because a lot of people were like, oh, he's just a big fella that's, had a decent or good college career at Arizona State, but didn't think he was really going to fit into the mold of an NFL running back. Whew. Far out. You know when the game turned, though? 4 tush pushes in a row from Philly. They had the ball inside the 5, 4 tush pushes in a row to score a touchdown. That was not footy. Micah Parsons put it out there as well. He said that was absolutely garbage. And it was. Because you have a guy like Saquon Barkley in the backfield playing against his former team, and you're not going to hand the ball off to him inside the 5-yard line to score a touchdown at MetLife? Are you kidding me? That was absolutely shit ass. Saquon only had 12 carries for 58 at a good clip. They just didn't want to go to him. Cam Scatterboo, 98 rushing yards for 3 touchdowns. They're just fun to watch. Jackson Dart, 17 for 25, 195 and a touchdown. 13 to 58 on the ground for a touchdown. He is super, super athletic. And you just got to wonder why on earth you started. I get starting Russell Wilson. You've got to have this kid sit behind him to watch what's to come. But he showed in the preseason he was ready to go. He's shown so far, and I know they'd lost to New Orleans, that he's clearly ready to go again here. They had a big finish to the season coming up. the Giants have gone from one of the more least watched teams, or least watched teams that people would actually go on and watch for the rest of the season if it was Russell Wilson that was going to play out, to they are now must-watch TV. Now start putting this team on primetime. I'll watch it. NFL continues in London this week. Denver Jets. And I said it before, granted that Denver are up for this one. We know they had a massive win against Philly. You've got a clean slate there. Move on. You're flying to London, sorry. You just got to go ahead and take care of business. Show everyone that you're a legit Super Bowl contender. The Jets are still winless. Show everyone that. Denver's defense is elite. Pat Surtain stops Garrett Wilson. Where the Jets go from there? I love Mason Taylor, don't get me wrong, and there's a chance that he could have a semi-big game in this one. But not big enough to trouble Denver at all. All you have to do is have one man guard Garrett. The rest of the team just stops Justin Field and Breece Hall. And I don't see how this thing's close. This should be double digits with ease. Spoiler alert, Denver are going to be in our best bets this week. Dallas rolled right through the Jets last week, so I have Denver rated far higher than I do the Dallas Cowboys, especially Dallas without CeeDee Lamb. I honestly don't see how this is close. I feel for Aaron Glenn because I was a massive, massive fan of him when he was at Detroit. I want him to get wins, especially with Justin Fields, because he's one of the most, he gets shafted by Pittsburgh. Shafted. I want him to win games. It's just not going to be this week. Seattle travel to Jacksonville. This is a chance for DUUVALLL once again to show everyone that they're for real, and that they too, similar to Denver after beating Philly, they too, after beating the Chiefs, need to forget about it and move on and realise they've got another home game here against Seattle. Seattle clearly have the weapons to stay with Jacksonville. JSN's elite. Kenny Walker, stop taking him out on the goal line. Dead set. And they have every chance of winning this game in Jacksonville. This match is pick, and probably rightly so. Jacksonville coming off a shorter week, in Monday Night Footy. Seattle won't be happy defensively with what happened last week. And I know Tampa Bay can put some points on the board, but copping 38 is not very Seattle-like. So I think this game, even though the conditions are going to be, very good once again down in Jacksonville, I think it's going to be a bit more of a grind. Jacksonville looking to run the footy a lot through ETN. Seattle love doing the same thing with Kenny Walker until you get into the red zone. And both defenses, secondary-wise especially as well, like with Mike McDonald, is going to knuckle down this week and make sure that they're not copping 30-plus once again in this one. I'm probably steering clear of a bet, but this is a game that can go either way, and it's priced as such. Dallas at Carolina, I'm talking about this one here thanks to Rico Dowdell's revenge spot. I had the revenge spot marked in for Saquon against the Giants, but Philly just decided not to use him and wanted to go to Dallas, got it, and run 4 tush pushes in a row. I don't think Carolina's going to do that. They are going to look to Rico Dowdell to run right through Dallas, and he can do that. He may very well go for 100-plus in this one. His numbers obviously going up a little bit on the higher side, obviously. You go for 200-plus, that's about to happen. But Carolina have showed that they'll continue to fight regardless at home. And this is a match that could have some points in it because Carolina have showed they can leak, but they also have showed they can score. Jake Ferguson's probably in for a big one. Darren Waller put it on Carolina. So given Dallas's receiving issues, if you want to call it that, Ferg should be just fine in Carolina, especially with CeeDee Lamb out. So I'd look for him to have a big night. I'd look for Rico Dow to have a big day, and look for some points here. I'm waiting on the weather though. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. A lot of people are going to laugh at me here for this one, but the Cleveland Browns are going to win this game. They are going to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This defensive line for Cleveland is legit, and Myles Garrett is coming after him for, at the very least, 1 sack. You can try and double him all you want, but he's getting to him. Pittsburgh have heavily relied on turnovers. Dylan Gabriel is not a quarterback who's going to do that. Didn't do it in college, and he's not going to do it in the pros. They could lean on Judkins pretty heavily here to try and run through Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh had a better week in Dublin in terms of stopping the run with Jordan Mason, but I think the way that Judkins is going right now, he could tear him one. He could. This spread is far too nice to pass up. Spoiler, they're there in a segment coming up. I honestly believe the Browns can win this one. Pittsburgh haven't showed me enough. They relied on 5 turnovers against the Pats to steal that win and still won it late. Played the Jets in week 1, relied on a 60-odd yard bomb from Boswell and then a missed field goal from the Jets to win that. Then had Carson Wentz throw 3 picks to beat Minnesota. Coming off a bye, could be rusty. And as long as Cleveland take care of the ball, I think they win this one. Chargers, Miami. Only reason why this is getting a mention is for the simple fact that, similar to Denver, the AFC West is on the line right here. If the Chargers lose this one, put a line through them. I know it's early, but put a line through them. They have been very, very, very disappointing over the last couple of weeks, especially against Washington. Jaden Daniels just came back for his first game off a couple of weeks out, due to injury, and he didn't miss a beat, but the Chargers missed plenty. They didn't look good at all. They need to, I know it's on the East Coast, but they need to come out early and put it on Miami, because Miami are a very, very bad football team. And Justin Herbert, if he honestly does not have a big day at the office, I don't know what I'm going to do to him. I don't know if I can continue putting him in our Sunday Fun Day player prop parlays, especially now with no running game because Amarian Hampton's going to be out for a month on IR. Are you going to say the Chargers are going to rely on the likes of Haskins and Vidal to beat him? No, it has to be Justin Herbert. So look for him to feature on Sunday Fun Day again. Been hurt enough times, may as well go back to the well, right? Tennessee at Vegas. It's a bad matchup, as we know, but Tennessee's coming off a win and Vegas are not. Vegas just got absolutely trounced by the Indianapolis Colts. And I know the Titans did the same at home, but I'm expecting that sometimes from Tennessee, especially with, one, a bad O-line. We've got a rookie quarterback. There's no excuse in Vegas. They paid Geno a lot of money to come over there, and I saw Damian Lillard put out a post saying that it's time for Sanders to get traded to Vegas. That's not going to help anyone. They may as well just keep playing bad and then draft a different quarterback next year coming in. Dante Moore, playing pretty good at Oregon right about now, would be a very good fit in Vegas. But they're ugly. I would have had Brock Bowers in for a pretty big game here, given how weak our middle is, so maybe look for Michael Mayer over the middle of the field to do something, but I hope he doesn't. I would have Calvin Ridley to finally show up once again and continue to show that he and Cam Ward are working on everything that went down last week, which was very, very nice for all to watch. If you're a Titans fan, that is. San Fran at Tampa. Baker, I think he's just going to continue his dominance and find another way to win games of footy. And this is a team that's contending for a high seed in the NFC. I think they're by far and away the best team, obviously, in their division in the NFC South. I know Atlanta's battling for that, but they've got a very tough game this week against the Buffalo Bills. Bread rises in the heat. Baker's the best Tampa in Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to beat the San Francisco 49ers. I've also said this week in and week out, this is the best defensive line in football. If they stop Christian McCaffrey, there's no way the Niners get this win. They're not letting Mac Jones beat them. It's not happening again. Kendrick Bourne's not having 100 plus again. 140 plus, I should say. I think Tampa win pretty comfortably here. Cincy at Green Bay. Yeah, Flacco versus Green Bay for the second time. I said it before. He's every chance of getting decapitated here. Green Bay need to get back to some consistent footy. I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a monster night here against Cincinnati. They can't stop anyone. Who knows if Joe Flacco is going to give him some kind of life offensively. Hope that he's able to find Jamar Chase and Chase Brown for fantasy purposes here. But he may be on his arse more than anything in this game, because that Green Bay D-line is going to be coming after him, and after their offensive line is literally pushed over about 80% of the time from them, this won't be pretty. it would have been great if Joe Burrows was playing. I'd have every confidence in the world in Cincinnati covering a 14-point line. I have zero confidence in them covering a 14-point line with Joe Flacco this week. Sunday night footy, Detroit at Kansas City. A couple of years ago now, Detroit went into KC on banner night and everyone said, oh, it's the Chiefs again this year. Detroit were unfazed. They came through and knocked them off. I think they can do that again here. Kansas City, semi-short turnaround this week, obviously playing on Monday Night Football, may have been looking ahead to this one. Probably not, just given the fact that it was a primetime matchup against Jacksonville. You never shy away from any of those things, but this is a huge contest, and a lot of people may have circled this one for a potential Super Bowl matchup this year. I think this Detroit Lions team is every chance of making the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. They've been on the cusp for years now. That clock's ticking. It is ticking. Show everyone again on the big stage that you are going to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have done very, very well against the run. Detroit, as we know, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, they run the shit out of it. This one's going to have to be won on the back of Jared Goff, though. Jared Goff, this is your moment. Beat Patrick Mahomes once again at home. Send the Chiefs packing. And maybe they miss the playoffs. I know it's early in the season, but a loss here would be huge. Detroit's a nice price, not going to lie. Last but not least, the doubleheader in Monday Night Football. I'm okay with these doubleheaders when they're not overlapping. This one is overlapping. Why? Why are we not overlapping in a few weeks' time? And why are we overlapping here? It doesn't make any sense. No one wants a game at 10:15 and 11:15. You can't watch both games unless you got two TVs or multiple laptops set up. It's not like Red Zone. We miss plenty of game time here. This actually sucks. Not the best of games, but they've tried to make this Chicago-Washington thing a big rivalry with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. As we all know what happened last year, that was fairly memorable. It's going to be hard to ever forget. Buffalo-Atlanta's the first game. Buffalo coming off a loss. Atlanta coming off a bye. Big opportunity here for the Falcons to strike against the Buffalo Bills. A team that they could send to 2 straight losses. Like, their boredom caught up to them. I don't think they're going to be super bored on Monday night, especially on the big stage once again. This game should have plenty of points. Spoiler, we're hitting on it. The other matchup is going untouched. We don't know if Terry McLaurin's going to play, but I'll give you the tip. There won't be any celebrating before the game finishes up if you're the Chicago Bears. Because that Hail Mary last year is going to be played for years and years to come, and we're going to see about 18 replays of it prior to the game on Monday Night Football. During the game on Monday Night Football, it's just always going to be on. And Caleb Williams need to show everyone once again that they need to continue to build on what they had going for them, because they're not using DJ Moore enough. Rome Odunze is probably clear wide receiver 1 there, which I don't get it, but it is what it is. DeAndre Swift needs to continue to get heavily used, and Caleb needs to beat him on the ground. Similar to Sean Payton with Bo Nix, unleash the shackles on this kid, and let's see what we got. Weather pending, could have some points. Before we do hit on our best bets in the NFL world, college footy, some big games coming up this week. Obviously, the Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma. My goodness, Texas. I practically lived in Austin for most of my life, in my 20s, that's for sure. And from what I know, it is extremely miserable there right about now, because they had national title hopes this season. Arch Manning, this is his year. We waited for Quinn Ewers to move on. Boy, oh boy, they got dog walked by Florida last week. That was embarrassing. Whether or not they were looking ahead to this week's game in that Red River against Oklahoma, we don't know if John Mateer is going to be playing. If he does play, I don't see how this one is close. If he doesn't, you'd give Texas some kind of chance. But more than anything, I'll take the over 44.5. Florida State -10 against Pittsburgh. Same deal with Florida State. They played well enough against Miami. They battled back and I think showed enough to know that this game is arguably their season's on the line. After losing to Virginia, lost to Miami, you've got to get this done here against Pittsburgh, and I think they can do that. They should win by 2 touchdowns. Oregon, Indiana is arguably the biggest game of the weekend, though, and being a big Oregon fan myself, with Dante Moore going up against Mendoza, they're probably the 2 best quarterbacks in the nation right about now. You can have your Garrett Nussmeier or whatever, like he's terrible. I think Dante Moore is every chance of going number 1 ahead of Mendoza in the NFL draft. Didn't know I'd say that kind of going into this season, but he's been brilliant. There's going to be some points in this one. Give me the over 53.5. Texas A&M host the Florida Gators. I think Florida has got ahead of themselves from last week. This game in front of the 12th man, a completely different setting for DJ Lagway and the Gators. -6.5 is not enough points for Texas A&M. Spread bet that down. Take the 6.5. I know it's around 7.5. Just drop it down a touch. Go the 6.5. South Carolina, ditto there, +9.5 at LSU. I don't rate LSU at all. You know, there was a lot of talk about them at the start of the season with their big win, if you want to call it that, against Clemson. It wasn't really in the end because we've all seen how bad Clemson are. South Carolina +10. I'll take it. It's NFL best bets time now. Let's do this. Try and find some winners for week 6. All right, we went 3-2 last week, so we're now 10-12 overall. I'm going to start with the Denver Broncos -7.5 in London. Again, this game has every chance of it being a 2-touchdown game. I know games are a little bit closer playing abroad, but there's just a stark difference in these two teams. It's not close, and Denver need to show everyone that. Cleveland +6 at Pittsburgh. Number's about 3 points too big. I'm going to take them outright as well. You can get about +250, $3.50 for the Browns to beat Pittsburgh right now. That's a good bet. Detroit on the money line, +117 or $2.17 at Kansas City. It's primetime footy. It's Jared Goff's time to shine. Continue Kansas City's misery right now. Give me the Lions. Give me MCDC. He has been licking his lips waiting for this one. And last but not least, I'll finish with Buffalo Atlanta over the 50. I think there's every chance this game has 60. If you want to spread bet it up, go to town. But Buffalo will be extremely annoyed after dropping that one to New England. They dropped the ball. They're not dropping the ball on primetime here against Atlanta. Atlanta also have to know that there's an opportunity that this Buffalo defense is leaking points. You know, they almost lost to the Saints. So Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson and Drake London, Cole Pitts even, have every chance to put some points here on Buffalo, and I think Buffalo return serve. This game's going to have them. So give me the over 50. As is always the case, keep a lookout on socials at Trash Talker D-Bork on Insta and TikTok for more player prop parlays, obviously on primetime games in our usual Sunday Fun Day. This episode will be live on YouTube later today, as well as Spotify and Apple. I apologise about coming to you a little bit later. It could be the case ongoing a little bit, all dependent on schedules. Either way, I will be coming to you before the main slate of games do kick off. Thank you once again for tuning in today. I'll be back again, probably earlier next week actually. I'm going away for a little bit, so I might be at you on Tuesday or Wednesday next week to recap week 6 as well as preview some week 7 footy. Either way, enjoy Tennessee's second win of the season. One can only hope, right? This has been Trash Talker D-Ball.